Hey, everybody. Welcome to Soil Matters. We had a little bit of an issue with our guest today. He's going to be coming on next week. There was just a little thing on the sound side of things that wasn't going to work very well. And we want you guys to be able to hear the entire conversation properly. So Leighton and I are going to do a little bit of yapping. Leighton, you were talking before about some tests you have to pack up and stuff. So why don't you share a little bit of what's going on, brother?
Yeah. So got referred to a really, really interesting project that I'm extremely excited about. It has some real challenges. It's an organic landscape, a very, very fancy one. It's got a lot of topiary plants, all these intricate hedge work that's all over the place. It's just an incredible place, kind of like what I used to do back in the day. So they brought me on, and then they started rattling off, that they got this problem. They had dieback of some plants that had been for a long period of time. There's Poe in the background.
Yep.
And they weren't sure whether it was a bacteria, a virus, a pathogenic fungal outbreak or what. But by the way she explained it to me, it was like it started at one spot and it just kept going and going and going. And it was just taking out a lot of the plants.
Okay.
And again, she's 100% organic, but was forced to purchase plant material that was grown synthetically and then try to plug it into her organic system because of the volume of flowers that she likes to plant every spring. Oh, knock it off. So right away, I was like, okay, this, what you're talking about is pretty complex. And she goes, no, I pushed reset. I'm not doing anything this year. I just want to figure out what the heck is going on. So I'm like,
right.
Okay, well, there's a series of tests that I'd like to perform. One of it is obviously basic chemistry, saturated paste, and texture. So I understand because there's all these different niches. It's a mountainside in Malibu, right on the ocean. So you have like microclimates, you have different soil types, and of course all these super fancy plants that invest a lot of money in. So I'm like, well, so we'd have to do that basic testing. I definitely do direct microscopy because if I see a tremendous amount of suspicious spores or pathogenic fungi, that'll really help me. Please. That'll really help me understand the biological side real time right now. If I'm that I need to go further, I can send it off to get a third-party verification of what I saw or what I've seen. And then lastly is a new product out called Bee Crop, and combined with a Haney test. Now, a Haney test is a base test, not an acid test, where the typical chemistry test is a strong acid test. So it really gives you both what happens when the soil is alkaline and what happens in the soil when it's acidic. Because let's face it, we know that in the aggregates, you're going to have anaerobic pockets that are going to be acid. You're also going to have dryback areas where it's going to be more alkaline. So it's really important to have all of these tests if you really want to create erosion. She greenlit the whole fucking thing, and better yet, she's not restricting me in any way, and I'm blending all of her soils for her and her compost for her as the job gets done. Because the other thing too is, look, your irrigation's all over it. Here, your soil is soaking wet. Over there, it's bone dry. This is the same zone. What's going on here? She's like, I know we're going to have to redo all the irrigation. It's a 17-year-old property, and it's clearly been patched. People have come in and patched things, so you don't know what pipe is live and what pipe is dead, or if there's a split in the line or a plug in the line. So she's really going to let us recreate what was originally there at the level of beauty that it was. So this is going to be a real fun project to take pictures of and document so that when it does plant out next March, by this time next year, I'll have incredible pictures to present on how to do this so people can, replicate what I'm doing and give them all the knowledge and understanding on steps on how to do it on their own. And we'll also get into interpreting the data, which is another thing that's, very difficult. It took me, well, I've been playing with DNA for over a year now, maybe a year and a half, and
Mhm.
understanding how to interpret DNA data is a challenge, because you really have to be well versed at the families and communities of biology so that you can be predictive about what's going to happen or what you need to accomplish for
Mhm.
that kind of impact on the plant life. So again, very exciting time, and also I got the basic thumbs up today to explore bringing on a nursery worker who I've already identified, and she and I have talked, and
Cool.
a small greenhouse, and actually propagate her plants in the soil that they will be in organically, which has always been a problem. And her gardener has told her every year, you're taking a synthetic crack baby and planting it into an organic system. Of course, it's going to go through shock. And
Yeah.
some of them die, but we can, I explained to her, I said, look, in the past, I would have to detox. I'd bring in all the plant material ahead of time, detox it. Anything that didn't make it through the detox process got sent back because it died, right? And this way, the homeowner is not getting billed for two plants. The landscape, or because when you plant something around this incredibly fancy landscape, it's not easy to go back in there and dig it up. You end up
Mm.
messing up the irrigation, you mess up the soil profiles, you mess everything up. So when I started explaining this on those jobs in the past, they were like, "Oh, wow, that's really a great idea." Right. And so I explained that to her. I said, look, I could probably detox them. Where are they grown? Are they grown locally? And she's like, no, we don't know where they're grown anymore,
Yeah.
because all the flower industries have collapsed under the pressure from, other countries growing them for half the price. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, on and on and on. Right. So this has evolved very quickly into a project that I'm super excited about. And I have been uh, limiting clients that I take. I've been very, very restrictive in the last probably year and a half, 2 years, because I don't want to take on a nightmare client. I just don't want to deal with the stress and pressure. Plus, my focus needs to remain on ESS and getting them to market, because that changes the world, right? That's a
Yeah.
huge game changer. If we could start deploying these pieces of equipment all over the place, you're preventing food waste from going into landfills. You're biologically inoculating, turning dirt into soil very, very quickly, with almost half the effort that I have to put in to do it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, again, I have to remain diligent to that cause, for lack of better words. Once they're off and running, once they're, like, what, to the walls, then I'll have more time to perhaps take on more projects, or who knows, just go back to what I used to do, which is get up every day and do what I have to do to stay alive, right? But anyway, really excited project. So today, this morning, I bundled up all of the chemistry tests. I did all the microscopy on Sunday. So I got to write up all the worksheets on that, and then pack up the DNA stuff that's ready to go. I got to fill out the chain of custody reports, and a lot of paperwork on that end of it. They really want to know. They want to know longitude, latitude.
Yeah. Okay.
Never asked for that on a test, right? They want to know plant type, soil type. They want to know everything. So just
Mhm.
filling out that paperwork is probably going to take me a couple hours so that I can ship it out. But well worth it nonetheless. I mean, again, very, very exciting project.
Well, what I like is you're starting from an organic, because she's
Yes,
been organic for a long time. The gardener sounds like he's in the right mindset as well.
dude, you know who the gardener is?
Andy Lopez. How did I know that? Okay, because there isn't that many other people in California that have that mindset to be 100% organic.
Yeah, and when I was digging up soil samples, I kept finding all these tiny little green pellets, and I'm like, dude, somebody's been fertilizing this. We're still trying to get to the bottom of whether someone was going out there spreading 20, 20, 20, or whether all those pellets were coming in with the plant pallets. So these, 5,000 little plants that were synthetically grown probably had slow release pellets in them. And that's what was causing this decline over the last 5 or 6 years, was the buildup of those pellets slowly releasing.
Mm-hmm.
So so there's going to be, and she's like, I don't care what you do, rip the top 6 inches of soil off if you need to. So again, how blessed am I to be able to do a project like that at this scale, at this caliber? And let's face it, the commute from here down there along the PCH, it's like driving to paradise. I mean, commuting to paradise every day, and there's nobody on the roads during that day on those highways.
And there's a Beach Boys song in there somewhere, like when you're driving, the top down and the hair, or the lack of hair flying off the top,
Yeah, so true, dude. So true. So very exciting time. And it took a little while to evolve. I had a meeting with her finally last Friday, I think it was. Super smart woman, like brilliant. And she did a lot of talking, but the questions that she asked, incredibly poignant and incredibly intelligent. And I don't usually get a lot of clients like that, Ken, that know that much about the problem or what she wants to get accomplished. So pleasure, just an absolute pleasure. So very excited.
Well, if she's been working with Andy for a long time, then she's been following the show. She's been listening and learning. But Case wanted to point something out here. He says the slow release lasts forever. The plastic casing will decompose. We'll see them 10 plus years after application.
Yep, he's absolutely spot on, because you would actually see different sizes. So you could tell that like some of them were like half decayed, but the other side was still intact, or they were just perfectly intact. So I'm not surprised, and I've heard that too from other sources, that those long-term pelletized forms of fertilizer are also releasing tons of microplastics. So here we are killing our soils again, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. So Case actually, I don't know why I always call him Case. Sorry, Cass. I don't know why I got Case stuck in my head, but anyway, he's applying for a grant. Can you recommend a tea brewer unit off the shelf, or shall I write up making my own? Thinking large size of 100-gallon plus.
Cass, we'll chat. I have a 125-gallon brewers that are off the shelf. You just have to customize the plumbing. I could FaceTime you and show you what I did, how to do it, and you'll be off to the races.
Cool.
So no, it'll be custom, but it'll be a lot less expensive because you're buying the individual components and doing the work yourself. And I know he's a handy guy too. I mean, if he's a farmer, they have to do everything.
Yeah, because if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself, right?
I'm into that, and they're always forced to fix shit on the fly. So deep respect for them. Oh, and got totes going out to Kyle. 2 totes of MJ. He's going to be spraying 100 acres of corn with just MJ, and then he's going to do 20 acres of synthetic, just so we have a real hard, compare that he can use with his farmer friends to say, hey, look, I used what you used here, and I used what we use, the biologicals, over here. Take a look. 20 acres, 100 acres. Oh, dude, it doesn't get better than that, man.
Well, and that's what we want, is those side-by-side comparisons on a large scale, especially when you're pulling the data and you can see the life in the soil and the difference in the plants. It's like, it's going to blow people's minds, the quality of the food. Like, he did fish brew, and, his levels of nutrition spiked amazingly. I can't wait to see what it happens with MJ.
Oh God, yeah. And again, the difference between that versus what I produce, I don't get all the secondary plant metabolites because I'm not using food waste, right?
Mhm.
So those growth promoters, those growth hormones, the specific endophytic biology that comes from those different fruits and vegetables. I'm pretty much a vegan. I'm just working on green plant material, not like foods. So
Mhm.
that's what really takes MJ to another level. Is that you're getting the endophytes, you're getting all the hormones, the metabolites, second and tertiary, as well as the biofilms.
Yeah.
I
Well, we
mean,
know how important those biofilms are. Like when you talk about a fish and the film on the fish being a second stomach, well, that's happening in our soils in a lot of contexts as well. On top of the biology has that biofilm as well.
well, and again, once you start depleting the life, you can see how it spirals down super quick because now you aren't replacing those extra polymetric substances. So they're not being created then, and your aggregates aren't forming; they're dissolving. They're going the other way, and then soon the whole soil collapses, and now you got water running off, right, and erosion. So
Yeah.
once you get to that point, man, if you don't have a product like MJ, you're talking 5 years of basically 3 to 5 years of just following. Let it follow. Let it start over.
Well, I know when my parents started the 13-acre strawberry farm, it was a conventional farm, and to have it certified organic, they had to make sure that there wasn't even a bottle anywhere on the property of a chemical because they would come and inspect. But yeah, it took 5 years to be certified organic, even though the stuff wasn't there anymore and being used. They were just using chicken manure.
Mhm. Yep, yep. And here, it's the same. It's three solid years
Mhm.
of pest free to be able to certify organic. And what's even crazier, and this breaks my fucking heart. I got that farm, the lemons and avocados that I restored. Remember, I
Yeah.
talked to you about that at length. I don't want to use his name. He's a very famous man. He's a household name. If I used it, everybody on this podcast would recognize it. I didn't sign an NDA, but I did promise to not like promote that
Yeah.
I'm working on that project. Right? Just being fair. Anyway, so we went through the certified organic process, got them
Mhm.
certified, but they were still required to spray pesticides, synthetic pesticides, to prevent
Mhm.
the spread of the citrus ciliate. The citrus ciliate is everywhere. It's not spreading from that location anymore. And I kept telling them, look, the biology is going to friggin' knock this back. We're going to knock back the ant population, which we did. The ants were farming the aphids that were eating the new tender leaves. So
Yeah.
dude, this is a great story. All right. So I'm there like, 7 days a week, just pounding away on this project. I told you, I got to know each and every one of those trees by name because I spent so much time underneath them, restoring them, injecting them, spraying them.
Mhm.
Um, that I was on there on one day when the landscape architect, their builder, the homeowner, uh, his private boy Friday, whatever you want to call him, we're all
Mhm.
there, and I come down the mountain, and they're like running at me. I'm like, whoa, whoa, what's up, guys? What's up?
What did I do?
Totally, dude. Totally. Like I could feel it. I could feel it when they were coming at me. I could just feel the energy. Like, whoa, this is gonna be bad. They're like, how are you doing up top with the ants? I go, oh, we're really getting them under control. I've seen a significant reduction, probably 70, 75, 80% reduction up there. And
Yeah.
they were like, well, they're all down in the house now. I
I
chased them
needed a
all.
new home.
Dude, this type of ant is so evasive that the trap that I use is 100% organic, synthetic free. It's a bait trap that makes them come and get it, and there's some like sugars and stuff in there to get them to take the bait, right?
Right.
And then they go back to the nest, and then this disease starts to spread through the ants. And as soon as it hits a certain point and they go, oh, damn, this is going to take down the colony, they wall off 80% of the colony, even good ones, healthy ones, because they don't want it spread. So they wall off the whole colony and abandon it. And the ones that aren't sick just naturally die anyway because they eventually get exposed to it. And then that 20% goes and joins another nest. So basically, the little bit that they saw, which was significant, was a fraction of what I took out on the mountain. A fraction.
Jeez.
Yeah, dude, it was like real eye-opening, when I started studying these ants and how they've just got an evolutionary strategy that's off the friggin' hook. I mean, guaranteed survival, work together. If you come to our colony, you're welcome with open arms. We're not going to attack you or hurt you or slave you. You're a part of us now. And I mean, if we humans could do that, talk about shift on a dime. But that's a whole nother topic. And I don't think we probably want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, super cool. And then just recently, we had those wildfires in Somerville. All my buddies are gone. There was a tiny little patch of lemons left. There's a tiny little patch of avocados left. All of the shrubbery, all of the plantings, all of the hard work that I put in, gone. And so I got a call from the ranch manager to please come out and check the soil. So I went out and saw what they were doing. And basically, Ken, I was so happy. Like the orchard, the little bit of orchard that did survive, you could just walk up and stick your finger down the soil. No problem.
Nice.
And before, it was like concrete. You couldn't do anything. And smelled like, forest duff. It smelled heavenly. And what they did was they basically, I wasn't overexcited about this. They did where the trees were burned, they ripped them out and then they tilled the soil. And that's where he was worried. He's like, well, do I have to do anything? And so I looked at it, I picked it up, smelled it, it smelled amazing. I go, no, I'm not a big fan of tilling because you kill a lot of the microbiology, but just go ahead and plant it. And my recommendations would speak to the architect. Once everything's planted, I'll come back and I'll do a couple treatments and get you back to where you were before the fire. So that'll be another fun little project to come up in the future. But dude, talk about heartbreaking. I mean, I spent a year and a half, 2 years on that farm, and it was perfect. Yeah. Perfect soil, perfect vegetable garden, all the orchards, everything was just super biologically happy. And fortunately, he has the money to do whatever he wants, so it's not a big deal. But
yeah, well, it's heartbreaking for you because you put your heart and your soul into that soil and those plants, and it's like losing family because you put so much in. You've seen how vibrant things are, and all of a sudden, it's all gone. Dude, it's hard.
When I first started there, well, not when I first started there. After about 4 or 5 months, the ranch manager came up to me and was like, Leighton, what are you doing? And I'm like, what's the matter? What's the problem? He goes, the avocados have 20 to 24 inch leaves. I've never seen anything like that. And he goes, there's so much fruit stacking up that I'm going to have to put sticks underneath the branches so they don't break and fall. I'm like, all right, don't worry. All I was doing was chewing up the pool of built up organic nitrogen, because even when you're using synthetic nitrogen, a large portion of that never gets used. It gets washed further down into the soil system or bound up on particles, right? And so, hey, knock it off. So I said that was basically it. Was that my biology was converting that synthetic to an organic. But once the protozoa came around and just started releasing these bacteria on scale, they had a burst of growth. But don't worry, as things progress, the branches and trees will get stronger so they can hold up that fruit. And those leaves are just an indicator of how much power they're going to have because they have bigger solar arrays. So they'll be able, they'll catch up and they'll be strengthening as they go. But yeah, we we did have what we call as a quick release of what was built up in the soil.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't understand or even misunderstand is these fields that are being sprayed for decades have all that stored there. They don't ever have to spray again for or for many lifetimes if they have the biology to break the molecules out to be able to have them plant available.
So there was a guy that did a study out of, I think it was Ohio State, basically doing a study of the organic nitrogen pool. So again, in an organic form, it's very difficult to break. It's not as hard as phosphorus. Phosphorus is the hardest one to break when it's converted into an organic molecule. That's why we have the red tides. That's why we have these huge problems with the dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico. Is that as soon as that organic phosphorus touches aquatic water, which has aquatic microorganisms, i.e., phosphate solubilizing bacteria that live on the coating of the fish, they have to pull that phosphorus out of the water column. So as soon as it gets into those waterways that have aquatic life of any kind, boom, released. And now you got a huge problem. So anyway, yeah, that was really interesting to see. And Andy, we were talking the other day about this when he first started doing his product. He would spray it on people's plants or bushes, and they would die. They didn't die. They just dropped all their leaves and went into shock because there was such a release. The next year they would come back vibrant. But he realized that he had to start diluting his material, or make it less strong so that the homeowner didn't freak out when the plant went into stress shock.
Yeah.
And so I forgot. I got to finish the story on the nitrogen. So anyway, he came back after years of studying different fields all over Ohio. Pretty sure it was Ohio. And basically came back and said, oh my God, people, we don't have to spray any more nitrogen in 1,000 or 10,000 years. We've got that much built up in the soil. And he got poo-pooed, run out of town, probably lost his job as a professor, all this negative shit. But again, these forms of nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium too. Potassium needs a solubilizing bacteria to release it. But it's all there. It's all fucking built up. You don't need any more. You just need the biology. And that's why I'm so excited to deploy fucking MJ, because that's what it's going to do, dude. Once that biology is going, his corn's going to freak out. It's going to have so much access to so much nutrient.
Well, I know when I was watching shows with the Johnson Sioux bioreactor, and he was showing, a year by year progression of plants. And, it was like the plant was 5 feet tall and the plant was 9 feet tall and the plant was like 16 feet tall. The progression of time as the biology built up. And remember, guys, Leighton was talking about the avocados and the branches falling over because they weren't strong enough. The biology builds those cells. So the next year they're building double or triple or quadruple the amount of cells. And all of a sudden you have a branch going from thin to thick because there's more cells. It's all about cell division. And it has to be the biology that's building it. That's the only way it can be built.
Yep. And cell wall strength. And let's face it, when you have the release of all of these nutrients on a biological form, the plant cells can take them up and be stronger. And more resistant to droughts, winds, temperature spikes, pH shifts. They just become like little, armored suits around them.
So the storage mechanism in the soil, like I know the radiation in Chernobyl is being held locked up by the fungal hyphae.
The radioactive isotopes. That's what
it's being locked up by the hyphae. Is that the same as what's happening with the other chemicals? Like the nitrogen, the phosphorus. Is that's where it's being held in our soil system?
I would say that a lot of it is stored in the mycorrhizae fungi specifically, not the saps. The saps do a different thing. Sap eat
Yeah.
the organic matter and release organic acids. Totally different. But the mycorrhizae, yes, can store immense amounts of nutrient, and it's only like they literally create pockets. Like if they bring it to the plant says, "No, I don't want that right now." They'll create a pocket and fill that whole cytoplasm with that nutrient, seal it off, and when the plant asks for it, or a different plant in the network asks for it, then they'll release it. So again, mycorrhizae is a giant bank account.
It's a warehouse division on the edge of the city with tens of thousands of warehouses.
Exactly right, buddy. Exactly right. And the bacteria too. The bacteria store in their pantry a lot of stuff. And if their pantry's too big, they'll divide. So then make another pantry, make another pantry, make another pantry. So the bacteria are also storing a tremendous amount of these nutrients, and they use some of those nutrients to divide. But as they divide, they just make a bigger bank account every time. So yeah, this is the power of biology. Is that you don't need anything, water only, right? Water and sunlight, and you're off to the races. But as soon as you start playing with synthetics, you kill all of those things, and now you're a crackhead.
Well, and that's the thing is, as soon as this came out in the as soon as the world wars were done and they had to change from making bombs, they started making fertilizers and applying it. You think it's literally Mother Nature has been able to hold on for this long, but we're getting to that tipping point where the predator prey balance is going to be so far gone. The amount of species that are being eliminated is going to break that chain that's necessary. I really believe that MJ and guys like Wiggle Brew that are having a more biological product is going to make it possible for us to survive what is going on with our planet.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Wiggle Brew's a little different. You need to apply that yearly.
Yeah.
Whereas MJ, technically, 1-2 application, never again, as long as you don't till or spray a synthetic. So, I get the business dynamics behind Wiggle Brew.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're a business, right? Well, MJ is more of a savior. Not that you can't apply it every year. You can absolutely apply it every year. And you're never going to create an environment that's in any way, shape, or form hazardous. Everything will just cyst up and it'll be there for thousands of years, generations. So if somebody does use some synthetic and then switches back, you'll still be okay. The necromass will be present. So that's why I have literally dedicated my life to those guys. And I recently told them, I go, you guys, you know what? You don't have any respect for what I did. I literally put my business on the ice. I stopped selling. I stopped focusing on clients or building clientele, because what you have is so fucking important that no matter what I do in my life, I could never make any kind of impact that you could. If this gets out, and you could change environments on scale beyond imagination, and it needs it, right? And I told you, we're working with Los Alamos. That's all fired up now. And once we really get a handle on how well it bioremediates, think of all the military bases all over the world that need this shit, right? I mean, talk about making a fucking difference, dude.
It's all about the biology. Once it's there and alive, and it's doing its job that was meant to do, it came so quickly. Like you said, 1 or 2 applications, and you can add again, but you don't have to, because you've set it up. It's like building a new building that's going to be there for 100,000 years.
A castle or a pyramid, right? Something that is just indestructible. Sort of an earthquake or a volcano, right? That is what it is, or a hit by a meteorite.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, right? Like you look at the pyramids built out of stone and carvings that were etched in so we could see them now from thousands of years ago. If they didn't build it that way, we wouldn't know anything about that civilization.
I mean, are you seeing what's coming out of the LIDAR, the soil LIDAR underneath the pyramids?
No, I haven't
Oh,
been following it.
dude, they have just proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that all of the main pyramids, there's one in South Africa, there's one in Egypt, there's
Mhm.
Angkor Wat in, I think it's Cambodia.
Mhm.
And then there's one that's off the coast of India that's underwater. They are all on the 33rd parallel,
Okay.
and they all have huge energy machines underneath them that at the time when they were being used created energy throughout the whole globe that anybody could tap into. And they've gone down and explored underneath the pyramids now, and they've sent pictures back of these incredible copper rolls stacked up. It just, they're computers, dude. They're fucking supercomputers. And the Egyptians stated in the hieroglyphics that they inherited it. That
Yeah.
was, they didn't build it. That they inherited it. They moved into that space and went, wow, look at this. This is really cool. So, we've been lied to and manipulated our whole lives about everything. But there were people on this planet, potentially millions of years ago, that did these crazy things that was taken away from us and we
Yeah.
weren't allowed to know about. So I highly recommend. I mean, just Instagram, Angkor Wat or the Gaza pyramids, and you'll just get buried with this stuff. And there's pictures, there's photographs. This is not bullshit. It's
Mhm.
it's the stuff that if you've been a conspiracy theorist your whole life, you already knew about. You didn't have the whole piece or the whole truth, but you knew there was something more to that than what we were being told. Just didn't know how deep it went until they did these crazy LIDAR radar tests or ground penetrating radar, this new state of the art shit, crossing satellites. And yeah, it's pretty heavy duty shit. But what it just released is going to anybody that has an open mind
Yes.
is really going to encourage them to question everything and listen to nobody. If,
Well,
if you can't answer me reasonably and responsibly when I ask a hard question, you're hiding something, right? It's basic psychology. If you can't speak truth, if I ask you a question like, why should I take that shot? And you can't answer me, oh no, you need to take the shot. Why? Why do I need to take the shot? Well, you're gonna die if you don't. You're fucking lying to me, motherfucker. You're lying to me.
Yep.
Give me the proof. Show me the data.
Yep.
Right? And you can't. If they can't come up with the data, now you caught them. They're in the bear trap, man. There's no escape. So
Well,
I've always been like, do my own research. There's the first time ever in history that reading up on something was you were called a conspiracy theorist.
well,
I've read up on vaccines, which I had done when I first had children, because we didn't vax our kids. We knew. We knew there was something wrong with this. And then when you find out that the pharmaceutical companies had negotiated a way that they could never ever be held liable for their product, ding ding ding, hello.
There's something wrong with this situation.
And the fact that they never did side by sides or used placebo or double blind, they didn't do any of that shit. We knew that years ago. You had to dig hard. Like, we had a doctor, a family doctor, a family practitioner, an older man, and we would press him on some of this stuff when we would find these articles or these shit back pages of medicine, not medical, holistic. What do they call it? Natural medicine? No, there's a name.
Herbology.
Yeah, stuff like that, right? Yeah. They labeled it alternative medicine now, but there's a holistic medicine. There's a number of different titles. But you would see this kind of information in some of the books or some of the publications that were kind of trying to warn you about these facts. And so we would ask this guy, be like, point blank, do you believe this? Is this true? And he'd be like, yep. He goes, you want me to write you a note? And we're like, well, how is that going to help us get our kids into school? He goes, I'll just lie. I'll just fucking lie and say I vaxxed them. And we're like,
yeah,
love you, dude. Love you. Because otherwise you can't get your kids in fucking school.
Yeah. It's amazing how they've set it up that you need to have a number when you're born. And if you don't have that number, then you can literally go to jail as a parent, because you didn't give your child that SIN number. You didn't sign the contract. People don't understand that everything's contract law. Like we're lucky here in Alberta because our premier, she set it up where she put in a Sovereignty Act. Now, I don't want to get into politics, but contract law globally, like your Geneva Convention, things like that.
It's actually maritime law. That's how they get away with it. It's maritime.
Yes. Yeah. But contract law supersedes maritime law. It's the overall law that governs, call it the universe, call it whatever you want. All civilizations, all governments have to follow certain laws that they've signed on to. And as a sovereign entity, you're actually at the same level as your government. If you claim your own sovereignty, they cannot do a lot of the things that they say they can do to you. Legally, they can't. Now, they can just come in and put a bullet in your head and then it doesn't matter anymore. But there's all these private members associations globally that talk about this stuff. And it's coming out more and more. And when Alberta went and became sovereign with inside of Canada, they took away the rights of the federal government to sign laws for them. They have to have their own contract. And it's a lot of what has been hidden from the people, like the Bill of Rights in Canada, at least, is half as thick as the actual treaty that was signed. There's a whole bunch more that is actually for the human being's safety and security that our government has
ignored.
Well, they don't even print it unless you go to a very special website that you have to dig and dig and dig to get the actual full contract. But if you go into a courtroom and you present this, the judges literally, go, no, put that person out the doors. Don't ever bring them into my courtroom again. Because if it comes out into the record in the court, then they have to recognize it. And that totally takes out everything.
Yep.
But you're talking about what's under the pyramids and being supercomputers and also energy generators. Like, we don't need those batteries in the electric cars. If they're set up right, you're actually just drawing the energy from the air around you, and you never have to charge that vehicle.
It's free. It's free energy for everyone. Tesla tried to unleash it, and Edison fucking drove him into insanity.
Yeah,
literally. So that's the problem. Is the cabal, the powers that be, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Oncinis. They created this, and they don't care how long it takes. But we were, from what I understand, if Trump hadn't got elected the first time, it would have already happened on 2020.
Yeah.
And we already know what happened on 2020. And it clearly indicates the fact that Joe Biden got more votes than there are voters, that there was some voter fraud being done, right? There was 20 million more votes cast the year he got elected than any other time before or after that. They fucked themselves, because when Trump got elected, he got elected with 20 million less votes.
Mm-hmm.
The
Well,
same as when he got elected, the same as when Obama got elected, the same, around the same numbers, you know, a couple 100,000 different. But bottom line is, where did 20 million voters come from when Biden got elected? And Biden was supposed to be the end, or actually,
Hillary Clinton.
no, Kamala was supposed to get elected.
Okay.
And if she got elected, that would have been the end of this, for sure. Yeah. None of this would have come out. There would be no Doge. There would be no understanding of how they, just for centuries, stole all the money that we paid in taxes. And our infrastructure is broken. We can't get clean food, clean water, and clean air. That's how they did it.
Yep. Well, if you break down the body, and they started in the education system, you know, breaking down the mental capacity of globally, and this isn't just in Canada, the US, this is a global thing that's been happening. But when you bring down, you know, the thought process where people aren't, you know, saying why, you know, why is this happening? Why is that happening? They're just, you know, become little sheeple, you know, they just, yeah, I don't want to get into this because I could get our whole channel can get into major trouble with this, you know, because we just went through that in Canada where the a lot of the misrepresentation, etc., has happened. We didn't have what should have happened. They just had the same thing in Australia, and exactly the same way. So it's a global thing that's happening, and it's all the people at the top, like, you know, the Rothschilds, and the people above them, and the groups above them as well. If you look at the corporate structure globally, there's only a very few families at the very, very top that own everything and dictate from the top. And fortunately for us, Leighton, a lot of that's being exposed, and those families are actually being torn down. That's what's giving me hope. And then, you know, having MJ, you know, that's something that can literally, you know, instead of spraying, you know, the bad stuff out of the planes and the jet stream, they can put in MJ, and all of a sudden we can have a global revitalization of all the organic entities on our planet, including us.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, you see why I dropped what I was doing, shelved my own business.
Yeah.
You know, at great financial risk. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of the leaps of faith I've taken in my life would be considered extremely irresponsible. But I knew if I didn't do it, nobody else was gonna. So, and I did that to myself with them. I got myself really deep in a hole doing all these testings when I was being told by one person, go, go, go. And it wasn't until I came back and said, hey, you guys, look, we're going to have to catch up on this shit because, you know, I'm getting hurt, or I'm going to have to go or work on something else, which I don't want to do. And eventually, you know, I was made whole. It's all good, but I don't know anybody in their right mind that would have done that. But I knew what they had, so I had to do it because they weren't doing it.
Yeah.
And thank God I did. Thank God I did, man. Because where we are now is light years of where they were when I found them. They didn't even they had no idea soil biology. They had no idea that they even had protozoa or nematodes or what those were. Like they had no clue. And then we got into the metabolites and the extra polymetric substances, the biostimulants, and you know, this is Eden in a bottle, literally. So,
well, and I know when I first mentioned this to you, and this is going back to the Future Cannabis Project, the second time I came on with you and Brian, and I went through this basic idea of what you could do, and because you were searching, I can't even remember what it was back then. You were looking for solutions for something, and I kind of, you know, looked at this idea and went, this is possible. And you know, you could do with biology in the right environment, you could break down this stuff very quickly because Mother Nature does it. Like there's biology that lives hours in our lifetime, in their lifetime, it's their whole life cycle. That's how fast biology can replicate and live and do their job. And it wasn't very long, and a few weeks later or a month or two later, where John Burfello met Gary Ailes, and then we brought Gary Ailes and you on to the OG's Power Hour, and all of a sudden it was like a blossoming flower. I've been watching this blooming, over the last few years. It's amazing for me that I actually was able to have a part in this, but I just so proud of you guys and what you guys are doing. It's going to be an amazing thing.
It is, my friend. It is. And kudos for you for actually finding that. I think you even called me and you said, there's a guy that has an anaerobic digestion. I'm like, impossible. Can't be done. Where is he? Let me talk to him. I'll fucking poke holes in him. And I couldn't. That's what started it all.
Yeah. It was.
And I mean, without you making that connection, I would not be working for them right now. I would never have heard of them, and they would not be where they are today. So we owe it all to you, my friend, literally.
Well, and we can go back further, but let's say we owe it all to the energy that surrounds us, whether you want to call that plasma energy, source energy, whatever you call it. It's that synchronicity. There's something greater than we are that's helping us, and we're being guided when we let ourselves be guided. Like next week, we were supposed to have Dan Shaw on today talking about vortexes and energy. This energy that surrounds us, guys, if we allow it to guide us that little bit, look what happened with what's going on with Leighton and the Muncher juice, all of this, it's all being brought together. We're being guided if we allow ourselves to be guided.
Amen. Amen. I was having a conversation with my son this morning. He broke up with his girlfriend. He's friggin' heartbroken and devastated. And, I was able to talk him off the ledge on Sunday. I said, look, don't mope around the house. Get your skateboard out, or go to work and work for a few hours. Make some money. Like, do something that's going to make you get this off your mind, but make you have a positive experience, not a wallowing in the muck. And I reminded him of the work that we had done with the men's spiritual group called Illuminated Warriors. We've actually had Waska on this channel.
Yeah.
And I reminded him of some of those tools, and he came out of it, right? And he called me today, and he goes, I really wanted to thank you for yesterday, but you wouldn't believe what happened to me. I said, tell me. He goes, well, I texted you at I think it was like 4:00 and asked you for $20 so I could go have a beer and a hamburger with my buddy. I said, yeah. So how did that go? I never heard back from you, or I heard back from you that you needed another $45. But when I responded to you that I don't have any more in Venmo, but if you can give me your PayPal, I can send you that. And I never heard back from you. What happened? He goes, Dad, you wouldn't believe this. He goes, first, when we're sitting there, I saw a killer whale. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, right, Dad, right in front of the restaurant. A killer whale surfaced. I go, dude, you remember animal spirit cards? He goes, oh, yeah, I remember that. I go, search on your cell phone what whale means. And he's like, well, what does it mean? I go, it means introspection, deep dive, hold your breath. Deep dive, hold your breath, and introspection. It's exactly what I've been telling you, son. Like, it's good for you to get away for a period of time and figure out who you are, what you are, and not be distracted. I mean, I believe me, I love women. I'd love to have a girlfriend, but I can't afford it right now. I need to stay focused. And I go, I don't want you to be like me and fucking recluse. But at the end of the day, this time away from her is going to be really valuable for you. It's going to give you the time to think about who you are, what you're focusing on, and give you more time to work because you don't have to rush home to be with her. So you can work more time. You can make more money. You can, get some of these other little kinks in your life fixed that you need to do, but you don't ever have time to do it. So spin this into a positive. And he got all excited. He goes, Dad, after that whale, you wouldn't believe what happened then. I go, tell me. He goes, we got these little scratch tickets that were like 50 cents a piece at the bar. Right after we saw the whale. And he goes, so we spent $5, or he paid $5, and we split the tickets between the two of us. He goes, the first ticket I opened was $100.
Cool.
Scratched 3 more, another $100. The guy next to him was rich shit. He had a fucking pile of these things in front of his friggin' and didn't win a dime. And my son sits down and wins $200 in a matter of 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I go, see, son, the universe gave you the whale and then gave you all the money that you needed to get a really good dinner and a couple of drinks and, you know, have some money in your pocket for the week. So, you know, just be patient, son. Be patient. Look for the positive. Be open. Be open. Like, why did you get those scratch tickets? He goes, I don't know, Dad. It's just something called me. All right, you're listening to your inner voice, dude. This is so important. So yeah, he ended up having, you know, a fantastic day out of a day that started in the absolute dumps.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's, you know, it's spiritual training, it's introspection, it's, you know, it's not just something that everybody has. And I'm really starting to think that a lot of people will never have it. Like they're drones. They've just been burnt out. Their brain cells have been completely burnt out. They believe what any media tells them. They believe the doctor when he says, "Oh no, here you need another pill." "Oh no, you need another pill."
Mm-hmm.
If you can't even question why am I doing this, or why am I eating this, or why do I feel so horrible, if you can't question that, then you're doomed to be a drone for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And
it's sad because, you know, at the end of the day, they promise us, "Oh, you don't worry, you're going to get a retirement, and your golden years, your golden age." Well, dude, by the time you fucking retire, you're so old, beat up, and tired that one of two things happens. Either you're an angry, mean, nasty person that stays alive because of that anger that's built up in you, or you get bored, lonely, and die because you give up the will to live, right? Because your body's broken and beaten, and your memory's fucking gone. You know, it's all these things that don't happen. And so if you're not living your life every day like tomorrow's going to be, or today's going to be your last day, if you can't do that, then you're a drone. You're just a fucking drone. And I feel bad for you, man. I really do feel bad for you.
Well, so, I call them extras because they're just the extra vehicle that's annoying you on the highway when you're going to go grocery shopping. But they really, you know, there's a lot of people that are in that state of mind where they are just drones. They follow, you know, the crowd. They do what the crowd says. And then there's the few, you know, like you, like myself, and a lot of our guests that stand up and go, "No, I'm going in a different direction, and I'm not going to follow your preset and predetermined life for me. There's something better." And, you know, it's going into that better that I'm looking forward to. Like, you know, there was Lily listens to a lot of different videos, guys. And the one person she was listening to next year, I think March or something, there's supposed to be an energetic shift on a major scale where all of this is going to be revealed, I guess would be an interesting way to put it. But I've been telling you guys that we're here to learn, to grow, to expand our horizons. That's where you have to ask why, to expand your mind. And when you ask those whys, like Leighton, what led Leighton from, you know, carpentry to stone cutting to, you know, aquaponics to where you are now? You were always asking why. Why did you go see Elaine? Why did you meet Elaine? Because you wanted to know the why behind it. So, guys, be one of those people that keeps asking why. I'm a 5-year-old, baby. I want to know why. Dad, why does this work this way? Why does this work this way? If you live in that, all of a sudden you're reaching a higher mental existence. And it's even in the Bible, you know, that higher energy makes you live longer.
Yep. And good things come to those that do good things. Really simple. You just have to have the faith. Like, you don't get me wrong. You're going to have tough times. Those are what shape you. And it's how you handle those tough times that makes or breaks you.
Yeah.
You know, and to your point, Ken, that like, you know, before I got into the Illuminated Warriors, like I was a road rager because it just people would just fall asleep in the fast lane of me driving 50 miles an hour. I don't have time to be fucking not going at least 10 miles an hour over the speed limit because I work fucking 12 hours a day, right?
Yep.
So after I did Illuminated Warriors, he started talking about energy. Energy attracts equal energy, right? Which is the opposite of what we think. Like magnetism is like, well, positive repels negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in reality, when it's your energy, like I would always attract all these fucking nut jobs. Like, you know, I all right, I fucking deal with this person, pass them, and next thing you know, they're on my ass riding. I'm like, dude, you were fucking driving 50 in a 65. Now you're gonna get on my ass, flashing your lights, beeping your horn. What the fuck is wrong with you, right? Well, as I realized, as soon as I just was positive, like instead of, you know, passing them, I would just think in my mind, hey, wake up, you're alive, wake up. And sooner or later, they'd look in the rearview mirror and be like, oh, and then look down their speedometer, oh, and then they'd speed up, right? So I learned that I could project positive energy on them without triggering their negative energy. Because if they're a drone, they trigger, man. They trigger real fucking quick, unless they figure it out on their own that they're driving 15 miles an hour under the fucking speed limit. Then it's like, oh, ooh, whoops, right?
Yep. Well, and you don't want to piss them off, especially if you're in Texas, okay? Well,
yeah.
like I really can relate to that, Leighton, because I was a truck driver for decades, and I've been through, you know, the big cities during rush hour, and I got to the point where if I was going to hit a big city in that time zone, I would just pull over an hour or two away and go to sleep for a couple hours. So by the time I got there, it was done, and then I never had to worry about it. Just thinking ahead.
Sorry, Lil, I just got a little passionate there. You know, I thank you for reminding me. But when I get passionate, I just get loose-lipped. I mean, you know what? I attribute this to, and I don't know if this is true or false, but a lot of brilliant people tend to swear a lot, and it's not because they're ignorant. It's just because they get passionate and they get driven and wound up, and they don't think about the words they're using. They just puke them out. So, but thanks for the reminder, Lil. I'll do better to remember.
I want to tell you a funny story, Leighton, because like a truck driver, you know, the F bomb was like it's every second word as a truck driver, right? It's just the way it is. But all of a sudden, for some strange reason, instead of saying, you know, the other one, I started saying fudge instead. And I did that for probably 5 or 6 years. And all my friends were going like, you don't want to swear anymore. You always say fudge. I go, I just got it into my mind that I would use that instead of. And it's like, yeah, I just programmed myself. And that's one of the things we program ourselves instead of going to the TV and being programmed with what you're watching. Program yourself, read that book, listen to that audiobook. Like I'll give you this one here, you know, this, and I have to thank Henry for sending this to me. It's a New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple.
Yep.
And it's talking about plasma and plasma energy. And it's even talked about in the Bible and all of this stuff. This is the energy that surrounds every molecule, you know, that we can't see. Like water molecules are, I believe, one of the smallest molecule constructions out there. And yet in a lake, there's all the space in between those molecules. And that's the plasma energy, what I call source energy personally. But there's so much. Oh, there's so much I want to say. And I can't say it on YouTube or a lot of different places. But guys, there's so much more. Leighton understands this. There's so much more. The pyramids, there's so much more to those stories. This is coming out, and it's something we can actually look forward to. That's why I keep saying, stay positive. Observe, don't absorb all the bullshit. Just watch it go like, okay, these people are psycho. These people are drones. But if we stay positive, our energy staying positive rises the energy on the planet, and that helps all of us. And that's why I always tell people, smile, just smile, stay positive.
Smile through the pain.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you, Ken. Like every morning while I'm drinking coffee, I scan headlines, right? I don't read any of this shit because it's all lies. But it's just interesting to see like how much negativity there is towards Elon and Trump on like every other freaking article is about this, bashing him for this, bashing. He's a tyrant. He's a terrorist. He's a Nazi. And it's like, you guys are just making idiots out of yourselves. Like the louder you scream, the more I realize everything that they're doing is absolutely 100% right. And I just wish other people could see that, but they're drones, so they can't. So they believe all of these negative things that are completely friggin' lies. Hey, I said friggin', not F.
Hey, man, almost a fudge there, okay? So, Lily, you read your comment, okay?
I did. I laughed when I saw that.
Just had to give you a hard time, Leighton. I don't care. I used to be a lady before I met my trucker.
Yeah, I laughed when you said that. I was definitely But anyway, so I should probably go back and get this DNA stuff packed up.
Yes.
So get it out in the morning. But enjoyed the company and the conversation, Ken, for sure.
Okay, and I know there was a couple of questions I didn't catch, guys, but this is going to be kind of a weird show. I'm going to change the thumbnail, but just to let you guys know who our guest is with me tomorrow. I got to bring it up on my computer. Matt Riesman, and he is from I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head, but he's a gardener, has a gardening channel on YouTube as well. I'm talking to him tomorrow. Of course, Wednesday it's Andy Lopez and myself, and that's always going to be a great show. As good as Leighton's show, because Andy's just as crazy as Leighton, or I guess they're kind of crazy together too. 2 peas or 3 peas in a pod when you throw me in there, right? Anyway, guys, have a brilliant day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.